welcome back to STEM Talk. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And for today's episode, we're going to be talking to amazing women in all of these fields. So coming up, we're going to be hearing from 2 young leaders at our school, and then later we're going to sit down with 3 STEM professionals in our school. Hi guys, so we have our 2 young leaders from our school and they love STEM and we're just going to talk to them about it. So do you guys want to introduce yourselves or?
Sure, my name is Needy and I'm a junior at Livingston High School.
I'm Amanda, I'm also a junior.
So how did you guys get involved in STEM at school?
I got involved through robotics. I joined my sophomore year and now I'm the captain of one robotics team and I'm a member of a second. I'm a member of FIRE.
Mm-hmm.
And I of course started taking some higher level like STEM classes, like I'm in AP Physics and Honors Pre-Calc.
Just like Amanda, I also love math and science and I take a few higher level math and science courses at the high school like BC Calc and Bio. I took physics and CSA last year. And in terms of extracurriculars, I'm vice president of the school's coding club, and I'll be president next year, and I'm president of our school's Women in STEM club.
So how did you guys get into STEM and what was your experience? Because for me, I took a coding class when I was in 2nd grade. It was a camp, and I didn't want to do it at first, but when I got there, it was oh my god, so fun. And from there, I went to robotics, and then kept moving on in the STEM field. So
Actually, I didn't think I liked STEM at all for a really long time. It didn't interest me very much. I thought I was a humanities person. I thought I would really be into English and history. But then in 8th grade, I took Enrich Tech, which was really, really fun. And we built rockets and dragsters, and it was awesome. So freshman year, I took Tech and Design 1, and that's when I realized that there are definitely jobs in that field, and it could be something that I really pursue throughout my life. So sophomore year, I joined robotics, and that's really when I realized that I really, really like STEM.
Yeah, I loved math and science courses in elementary school, and those were by far my favorite parts of the day. And I started to get really into logic puzzles. I love playing with my Rubik's Cube and everything. So I started to take up coding when I was in 4th grade. We had Hour of Code, and then I started pursuing it on my own. And it was just a really cool platform for creative expression. When you're a kid, you're really imaginative, and you have all these ideas. And it was I could use logic and code to bring those ideas to life. And I guess that passion for coding really followed me through middle school, and then high school. I joined the coding club, and I eventually founded my own programs like Women in STEM and Coder Gals at the Livingston Library.
I did I tried a Rubik's Cube once, and then I rage quit in 5 minutes. Because when you have a cube and you turn the corners to get it to fit. I did that a lot. I took the stickers out. I was we'll put this one here, move this one there. It'll work.
Creative problem solving.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, do you guys want to go into something in the STEM field when you're older?
I definitely do. For me, it's not even about do I want to go into STEM, it's what part of STEM.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm touring colleges, it's hard for me to even choose. I love mechanical engineering. I also really like structural engineering. I'd love to do robotic engineering. Robotics, it really has my heart, but not many schools offer it. There's only about 10 in the country that have a good robotics engineering program. So I think I'll probably major in mechanical engineering and minor in robotics if I can. But I also like comp sci. I'm taking it this year. It's fun, it's hard, but it's fun. It's really hard for me to pick, honestly, but I definitely do want to be involved in STEM. I want to work at a STEM firm or an engineering firm, or do robotics for a living would really be the dream.
I'm lucky that I know specifically in STEM, I love computer science, but I also really like business and social impact, so I hope to pursue a career at the intersection of those three.
I'm still in like the midst of like, I like both the STEM field and like the law field and business field. So it's all very like, very mixed for me. So how would you go about encouraging like young girls to go into like the STEM field, and like if they had like any concerns or like just tips, and I guess?
I mean, I think it needs to be encouraged more. I think it's sad really how few girls are involved in STEM. Even like on my robotics team, we have the most girls out of any team at our school, and we only have 6 girls out of 20 people, which sometimes I think of that and I'm like, that's amazing, we have 6 girls, and other times I'm like, that's only a quarter of the team. Wouldn't I want half a team of girls? Wouldn't I want it to be 50-50? We could really get both viewpoints, and I really think it would be amazing if girls were more encouraged to pursue STEM, because it's such an important field, it's a growing field, and it's really interesting. And having less girls in STEM, it almost perpetuates the stereotype of like boys being smarter, which is a stupid stereotype, because there's nothing that would make them smarter.
Yeah, adding on to Amanda's point, I think it's important to note that the gender gap in STEM, though real, I don't think it has anything to do with intelligence or interest in science and math. I think it's a lot about the narrative or stereotypes around like who belongs in STEM fields that kind of surround us as we're growing older. Like, I know something we talk about a lot is like in like films, like like films where you have you're a hacker, you think about like some like guy in like his basement, and there's this stereotype that people who are interested in CS or STEM are like someone nerdy like that, and I think that pushes a lot of girls away from STEM. So growing up, I think we need to dissect that narrative and encourage girls to pursue science and math, and offer more opportunities for girls to pursue STEM if they're interested in it.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, but like Penelope from Criminal Minds, that just hit me when you talked about hacking. I was like, wait, like Penelope. So, and I remember like when I went to like robotics like interview, it was like there were barely any girls there. It was all guys, and I was like, oh my god.
I even had a couple girls. I was the only girl actually performing interviews, and I actually had 1 or 2 girls come up to me and ask specifically to be interviewed by me, because like it's, I guess, less intimidating for them, which I mean, I totally understand. All my interviews when I was joining had been done by guys, and some of them were really intimidating.
So who served as like an influence to you guys in like the STEM field, if you have anyone?
I mean, you guys just interviewed my old teacher, Miss Ziobro, and she's probably the biggest influence to me. She's the reason that I joined robotics. She's the reason that I'm so passionate about STEM. I enjoyed it before. I thought that's what I was going to do as a career, but now it's really a passion of mine, and I really, really love it, and I work hard at it, and that's mostly because Miss Ziobro showed me so much about how I can love STEM and how a girl can be very important in STEM. And she really pushed me to join robotics, and she even pushed me to join Eco-Lancers at our school, which I think I'm going to be joining next year. She was a really big inspiration to me.
I think for me, it was, my family members. There are a lot of women in my family who are in STEM fields, so I always felt like I had people to look up to. But also I think the girls around me, the ones that I did have in my CS classes and in like computer science summer programs, were a huge inspiration, because they were so inspiring and strong, and I guess just really cool people, and it made me want to continue to pursue CS further.
So that was amazing, guys. Thank you so much for coming to our show. And now we're going to hear a little bit more about CEO Lisa Hsu.
March is Women's History Month, and this Women's History Month, we would like to honor Lisa Hsu. So, Lisa Hsu, who is she? At a glance, she's the CEO of AMD, but really, she is so much more than that. Lisa was born in Taiwan, but later migrated to the United States when she was 3 years old. After her high school career, Lisa attended MIT University and majored in electrical engineering. She even continued on to earn a PhD in electrical engineering from MIT as well. Lisa's first job was at Texas Instruments. This is where she discovered her passion for semiconductors, later what she'd be known for. She had only been working at Texas Instruments for about a year when she was hired by IBM as a device physics specialist. A pretty impressive job for such a young person. She quickly climbed the ladder and became the vice president of semiconductors research and design, which was no small feat. In 2012, Lisa became the senior vice president and general manager at a failing computer chip company named Advanced Micro Devices, or AMD as it's commonly known. Lisa was the one responsible for the revolutionary chipsets in both the PS4 and the Xbox One, all from AMD. In 2014, just 2 years after joining the company, Lisa was promoted to CEO of AMD. As CEO, she would streamline the product lineup and make AMD a truly revolutionary company. Under Lisa's leadership, AMD would come out with the Ryzen series of computer chips. This series of chips would put them on the map as a competitor to Intel, who had held a monopoly over the computer chip industry for many years now. Lisa Su is truly one of the greatest scientists, business people, and engineers of our time. Every person should strive to be like Lisa, whether you're a man, woman, child, everyone could learn a little bit from Lisa.
Back everyone, and thank you so much, Lisa Su. So now we're talking to 3 professionals in the STEM field. So if you guys want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Dr. Starace, and I teach physics and science research at LHS.
I'm Mrs. Rocco. I teach calculus and pre-calc honors here at LHS.
Hi, I'm Ms. Z. I am a former tech teacher and robotics coach here at Livingston High School, and recently just moved on to be a chief product officer for a SEL education company.
Okay, so I just wondering, how did you guys get inspired to be in like the STEM field? And
I always liked nature and discovery and math and science as a child, and so it was kind of a natural evolution for me.
I knew I always wanted to be a teacher, and when it came to high school, math and science were my best subjects, and I happened to like math better, so that's kind of how I stumbled across math. It really worked for me.
Similarly, in high school I really liked math and science, but I decided to go to school for engineering, so I actually did engineering for 25 years before I became a teacher for the past about 9 years.
wow. So I know I read this like article where it talked about how like in like the STEM field, like male made up 75% of the field. So was it hard to get where you are in like such a male-dominated field, or like your experience when you were studying STEM?
Similar to you, I didn't start in teaching. I did research in biophysics and physics and got a doctorate. So it was very male-dominated. And that had its goods and bads. I mean, it was kind of intimidating, and there was a lot of judgment, but if you have the tenacity to just stick through it, then you can always find friends and people to support you, and it was fine, yeah.
So I was a math major at the University of Maryland, and most of my classes were male-dominated, especially my upper-level math courses. So I remember finding them challenging, and most of my professors were male. But it was really nice when I finally got to have some teachers or professors rather, that were females, and it actually helped like inspire me and know that I was in the right spot. But it definitely can be challenging sometimes to like put yourself out there in like a male-dominated world. But I've kind of always been like, well, I'm here, I'm going to prove myself, and that's kind of the way I got around that.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I did it too. So in college for me, in my graduating class, there were only 5 females. So the numbers were something like 95 to 5%.
Wow.
So it was pretty small to have to see female engineers at the time, especially electrical engineering. And then absolutely out in the workforce, it's very difficult to get ahead, but you just have to be persistent and stick to what you know how to do.
I know now it's gotten a lot better because there's like a lot more women getting interested in STEM. Like even at like our own school, we have like women in like the robotics teams and like people who are interested in like physics, math, technology, and engineering. So if you guys weren't a teacher, would you still be involved in like the STEM field, or do you think you would have gone in like a different direction?
I think I'd still be involved in some sort of STEM field, either research or some sort of teaching or some industry, yeah.
Yeah, I would have definitely gone something STEM related. I think for me, I really went into teaching because of my own personality. Like I didn't see myself as a sit behind the desk kind of a person. But I think that math or science was definitely the field for me. It was just something that I was good at and I liked doing. So I think that's important when you're choosing a field of interest, is that you actually like it.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess my question would be a little different, or answer would be a little different, since I was, and had a career as an engineer, then went to teaching. I actually went back to being an engineer, then back to teaching, and now I'm back in my career. So I'm doing engineering every single day, but I'm still robotics coach here and at another school within the area. So I will always probably be involved in the field.
So do you remember any times where you like questioned your involvement in STEM? Like maybe in college you had like an experience, or people were like doubting you, like, oh, you can't go into STEM, like just because of your gender or anything?
I would say that no, I never really questioned because of my gender. I felt, doubts about myself here and there as I went through my life, but I don't think I felt doubted because of my gender. And probably that's because I was always raised without any limitations because of my gender. So I never felt that.
Yeah, I think any limitations I felt on myself were more pressure to be or fit into a mold than they were maybe from outside perspectives of just well, you see this, and when you sit in upper level math courses, you meet people that are incredibly intelligent, and that's intimidating, but just to know that you can see yourself and get through it, I think it's actually what builds your character, and it creates you into the best kind of person. I always thought that some of the struggle that I may have faced in some of those really tough math classes have actually made me into a better teacher, because not every student or not every person gets something on the first try. So when you're learning and you have to struggle through something, it helps you be able to better teach it to someone else. So I think that actually helped me.
Slightly different story. So from my perspective, being in a very male-dominated world in the engineering field itself, I always felt that I had to work harder and prove myself more than my peers, who always, I thought, did a whole lot less work than I did in order to prove that I knew as much or not more than them. So I do think that there was some things going on being unfair.
Yeah. So when was the first time you guys actively became involved in STEM? I know for me, I joined robotics. I did VEX robotics in the 4th grade, and that brought me into the robotics, so technology, engineering, which brought me into science, and then it brought me into math. So then I got involved into everything. So if you guys have any stories like that or anything.
I don't have anything specific. I guess in college I started joining clubs like electrical engineering clubs and building circuits and science Olympiad sort of clubs. So that was the first time I got involved, and then much more so after college in grad school, where I started research and it became much more hands-on, and that's where I really got inspired as well.
I remember in elementary school, I got chosen to be on some team, and I just remember that we were building a structure out of balsa wood to hold as much weight as possible, and that was my first dip into the STEM world in the competition sense, and I always really loved it. And then I was on the math team and things like that as I went through high school, and then honor societies and such as I grew up.
Yeah, I did the same balsa wood thing.
It was books that had to sit on.
It was books that had to sit
Yeah, you had to have disconnected. It was
pretty cool. I think my earliest was in 1st grade. I went to I'm gonna really sound like a geek, but that's what I am. I went to an engineering camp in between my 1st and 2nd grade. So, and from there, I just like to take things apart in the house, and usually not really put it back together again all that well, because I was reverse engineering things as a child. So.
I had a story like that too. I did this technology and coding class in the 2nd grade at some university with my brother. I didn't want to do it. My brother forced me into doing it because he wanted to do it. And then I went there and I was this is actually really fun. So then I continued doing it. So what are your favorite parts of your job? As teaching and stuff?
Oh, that's easy. I think probably all of us will say similarly, the kids, right? The students that we teach, and watching them, helping them grow and helping them develop, and seeing a change from freshman to senior year. It's really inspiring. I feel like I learn as much from you guys as hopefully you learned from me.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is everyone always be oh, why would you become a math teacher? No one's going to use it, especially when you start to teach these upper level classes, and not everyone goes into a STEM field and uses calculus or pre-calc every day of their life. So something I always tell them is teaching math is more about just teaching the subject. It's also teaching children that they can do math, and there's the problem solving in that, and of course just the everydayness of my job is that there's never a dull moment in my classroom. Someone's always going to make a day better, even if one period is worse than another. It's there's always something to brighten your day, and watching students grow and interacting with them after they've graduated and having them reach out to you and say that how you helped them, it's inspiring, and it's really what makes the job the job. It's always been a passion of mine.
Yeah, the students learning, definitely, the hands-on projects and seeing them become, really competitive as the years go on, and when you have second levels in the same class as the first level, I remember doing that last year. I could do it better than you this year. And so and same is true with robotics too. Every year they get better, or sometimes not. But.
So, what are like the top 3 changes you would make just to make like life easier for women in STEM, or like not even just women, but like in general for like people going to STEM field?
That's easy for me. It's all about balance. It's hard to find balance as a woman in a STEM field, or any field for that matter. So things like having childcare facilities on site would really help with that balance, or in really heavily male-dominated fields like engineering or physics, having like women's organizations to have support to find other women, things like that are just the 2 things I can think of.
Yeah, I think it's important, to have a group of people that, make you feel supported. Like I said, I'm not a parent or anything else, but like in all of that, in any field, women in general, the use of, ways to help us become better at our field is always important. But you said it kind of really well. I don't know if I have anything else to add.
Yeah, actually, I would second all of that.
Yeah.
And just, stick with a buddy, find someone that you can rely on, and instead of yelling at your boss, go yell at your friends.
I know there's like a lot more like women's clubs opening up at like different schools, colleges, and like even like the community, just to feel like make women feel more welcome. So I think we only have time for one more question. So if you had any advice for someone going to like the STEM field, what would you say?
Do it. Yes, if you love STEM or discovery, or stick to it. There's ups and downs, and there are going to be challenges and self-doubts from yourself and from outside, but just stick to your dream and do it.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, and then it was always math. But I remember calling my mom in college after my first final, being like, I absolutely need to stop being in math. Like, what am I doing? And then the idea of like, stick with it. Like, it's going to be challenging, but you can do a great job, and you should stick with it and have the tenacity, and go do great things.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't always go on the 4-year plan when you're in college. It's okay. So yeah, stick to it.
So unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you so much for coming to our show. And thank you all for watching this month's episode of STEM Talk. Next month, we're going to be doing an episode on tech startups with special guest Max Block. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram @fire_LHS, and then subscribe to our channel, Fire Robotics, where you guys can see all our episodes. And that's all for this month. I'm Haley Bott, and I'll see you next time.
That I'm